One of the most exciting things I've been able to do this year so far is hold my own Notion events in DC. Now, for those of you who don't know what Notion is, it's a productivity software that allows you to manage your tasks both at an individual level and also at a team and company level as well. And I'm a Notion ambassador, having started in January of this year. After holding my first community event, I made a great connection with somebody who wanted to continue the conversation about Notion, and this is it. So without further ado, let's get into it with Manas. Welcome back to Mindful Morsels, where we help you do more with less. I am, as always, your host, Sam Lee, and today, guys, I am joined with Manas Ram. Manas and I have known each other for approximately 48 hours. I think we have hit 48-hour mark, and we'll get into how we met and everything shortly. But Manas, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
So my name is Manas. Thank you so much for hosting me, Sam. My honor and my pleasure to be here. I teach meditation for a living. Other than that, I'm a computer science engineer. I have some background with machine learning, stats, and math. I thought, why teach mathematics and make people miserable? Instead, I teach meditation and make people happy. That's more or less what I'm up to today. And yeah, I'm right now. I travel around the world for it, and I meet really wonderful people like you.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. I'm curious, has meditation been part of the entirety of your life or the majority, or was this a more recent development? Talk a bit about how you got into meditation for us.
Right, right. So often spiritual practice is very closely connected to religion, right? So when you're practicing meditation or when you're practicing a certain contemplative technique, people automatically connect it to God. So growing up, I was very religious. There were religious practices, there were rituals, symbols, chanting, but the essence of transcending religion and moving into a spiritual path happened to me in my teenage. I did have a strong fundamental understanding of religion. And we studied all religions growing up: Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, so on and so forth. But it's only in my early teenage that I encountered a spiritual master, and then I learned meditation from him. And then he his name is Gurudev. So he popularly says all the peels that you open for a banana, each peel is a religion, but they're all trying to give you the essence, the fruit inside, which is spirituality. So I started practicing meditation very regularly since about 17, 18 years when I was 17, 18. Before that, it was mostly religion.
Got it. Got it. And walk us through maybe your daily or weekly meditation routine, since I'm sure there are many variations of meditation
Correct.
out there. But for you, what does meditation look like on a consistent basis?
Correct. So there are two ways to see this. One is when you're starting off, how's your practice? And as you evolve into the practice, how you embody meditation into your day-to-day routine. So initially, about 10 to 20 minutes of meditation is great. And that's how I also started. So a little bit of breathing techniques so that the mind calms down. Because once you sit down, you start planning, right?
Right.
So to calm the planning mind down, often you start using breath as a tool. So you breathe for about 5, 8 minutes and then do a 10, 15 minute meditation. So the routine of having 20 minutes set for yourself is a good start to have. And as you progress, your breath work lengthens. That is, for example, have you noticed when you're calmer, when you're not stressed, you generally take longer breaths?
Hmm.
Have you noticed that? You had a fantastic day. Say you're very angry. How do you breathe?
Yeah.
How can Sam do this to me? He brought me to a different coffee shop. What is it? Do you see? So our emotional state and our breathing pattern are very closely connected. So what happens is, as you practice breath work, your breath lengthens. So naturally, your breath work time also increases. From 5 minutes, you move to 10 minutes, and then your 10-minute meditation becomes 20-minute meditation. So ideally, I recommend, and I also practice around and about 20 minutes of meditation and about 8 to 10 minutes of breath work on a busy day. And sometimes I do it twice, morning and evening. So it's like you combine meals and meditation. So that's the best way. You never skip a meal. So
Right.
why do you want to skip a meal for your mind? So before breakfast and before dinner, or before lunch and before dinner, whatever works for people.
Yeah, no, I like that comparison there. And I know you had mentioned you said you had traveled the world, but you're currently based in Boston. So how did that happen? Why are you currently based in Boston?
That's a good question. So I first came to Boston in 2017. So a college there had invited me. And it was my first talk publicly outside of India speaking about meditation. So I really fell in love with the city, I must say. It was very intellectually stimulating. More than 1 lakh students come to the city every year,
Yeah.
100,000 students. So then, yeah, and then I kept coming back. And in 2022, I decided, like all Asian families, your parents also decide through parents and me. So I came to business school in the US, and so I studied in Boston. And I decided that it's a great city. And anyway, I hardly live in Boston. I travel a lot, so it's a great place for me to keep coming back. And very fortunately, the reason why I stay here is because also I have the opportunity to teach in the local institutions. So my work also keeps me here.
Got it. Yeah, that's good to know. And now we can get more into what you've been up to in DC for the past few days, and then also the Notion event you attended that I hosted. So, do you want to tell people a bit about why you've been in DC?
So first of all, DC is a fantastic city. If you've not been wherever you are, contact Sam. He'll get you into the
Oh my
DC
God,
ecosystem.
I'll try.
And I've been visiting DC for 8 years now. I love the old building. And its modern architecture. So it's a combination of both. This is just a pitch for DC. But other than that, I'm here because, like I said, my teacher, my guru, my mentor, Gurudev was speaking in the Warner Theater with very well-renowned Harvard professor called Dr. Arthur Brooks. So they had a
Yeah.
conversation on the science of happiness, and Dr. Arthur Brooks was asking questions to him to understand what happiness is, what freedom is. And because I associate myself very closely with the nonprofit that Gurudev founded and runs, so it brings me back to his work, and that's how I came to DC. And other than that, of course, I also came to meet a lot of my colleagues. Yeah, and then I thought there's a little bit of free time on a Saturday. Why, instead of taking a nap in a different city, I might as well use the energy to meet somebody.
Yeah.
And I opened the Luma app. All of you should download this. It's very beautiful,
Yes.
very simple. Um, UI, UX, no sophistication at all. You should download this. And I found your event, Sam. I found that it was not a lot of people. It was very simple. The agenda was clear that, hey, listen, this is Sam. I want to talk about Notion. I want to help you use Notion more. And it's going to be personal because there are not 100,000 people there.
Yeah.
So it was nice. And the real reason was I wanted to meet someone outside my circle. I like to learn. Sometimes when you're consistently in the space of teaching, learning becomes difficult.
Hmm.
So you have to make a habit of continuously stepping out of the role called a facilitator, teacher, so on and so forth, and really be a nobody in the world again and again. So I think I wanted to meet and I wanted to learn something from all of you. And yeah, I think the Notion event that you hosted went really well. I
Thank
must
you.
say that from my heart. That
Thanks.
and I've written about it too. In a world that is not willing to be authentic, that chases virality, that chases superficial likes and so on and so forth. You were really humble enough to show what is your personal goals. I felt that the ability to open up even in a space of judgment. Maybe there were nobody judging you, but the fact that you could have been judged, right? And the courage to be vulnerable, I think that's a great skill one must have, and I really appreciate you for doing it and
Thanks.
sharing your calendar and your Notion with us to help
Yeah.
us understand better.
Thanks, Manas. I really appreciate that. And as we get into Notion, which is a productivity software, let's remind the viewers what it is. So I feel like everybody has their own little definition of Notion. It's kind of like a term like AI almost. Manas, how would you define Notion and then talk a bit about how you've used it up until this point to catch people up?
There's a Harvard's research. 85% of people never achieve their goals who don't write it down. So when you look at that statistic, it's mind-boggling. Like, what's the difference between entering it somewhere versus never writing it down if I'm anyway going to take action? But the
Yeah.
beauty is when you use the effort to put it into a system in front of you, physical or paper, what happens is it helps your subconscious understand where you want to go. It helps your unconscious form a pattern, form a lifestyle that takes you towards your goal. And for me, Notion has been one such opportunity where I mostly use it on the iPad. So I mostly take time to write it down, and I think it's an opportunity for people. It's an open notebook that is not just there for you to journal, but also for you to learn, for you to organize. I would say it's one-stop shop for your personal and professional life, where you can organize, especially if you're a freelancer, especially if you're an independent contractor, or you run a small business. It's great because as an individual, you can have everything when you open the app. Uh, right. So for me, it's a one-stop shop for everything about understanding my calendar, my routine, my goals, my plan, and so on and so forth.
Right. I'm curious to know more about how you mainly use Notion on the iPad. Like, are you typing on the iPad? Are you writing? Like, how are you using Notion on your iPad? Because I also do it too, but
So
I'm still figuring out how to use it best on the iPad.
so I use it across all my devices. I must tell you
Okay.
that I have it
Yeah.
on the Mac. I know that on the Mac you can use it on the Safari browser. Like there's a small
Yeah.
Notion thing that shows up. I haven't seen the app, but so I use it there too. So it's just personally, I feel I haven't been as active as a user I would like to be. But ever since I subscribed to the AI Notion's inbuilt AI, it was very nice because it helped me simplify my thoughts. I was not trying to rely on the AI to present what I was thinking, but rather to improve on my own thoughts. So that made a huge game changer because imagine I'm writing something and instantly I can ask the AI, "Hey, can you check this out and tell me if this makes sense?" So, for example, there's a Peter Thiel's idea. So you draw this grand project and you say, "Hey, Sam, how many years are you going to build? Are you going to take to build a billion people audience?" And then you're going to say, "Oh, you know what? We're going to grow at a million people a month, and it's 1,000 million, so it's at least going to take like 5 years from
Sure.
now." And then suddenly I ask you, imagine you had to do it in 2 months. What would you do? So the idea is not to be greedy, not to be over ambitious, but the idea is to break the notion of what you think is possible. So for me, when I'm entering it there, and when I have an inbuilt AI, I can always ask it to go beyond my own intellectual understanding and see, hey, listen, can we totally have a paradigm shift?
Right.
Previously, what I had to do is I had to go out of the software and then do my research and bring it back. That is number one. Number two is previously, if I had to organize something, I had to know how to use the software, if it makes sense. I had to go see the Notion's YouTube tutorials and then, or like follow a template that you make and then
Mhm.
download that template. But now I can simply write 10 points and I can just say, hey, can you make them into a table? Now that works really well for me because sometimes I have these months of content calendar that is scheduled. So say I'm shooting about diet, about lifestyle, about the Vedic ancient Ayurveda. So all I have to say is, can you give me 10 bullet points on these six topics that I'm going to speak about and schedule them in, or say give them as H1, H2, and H3. So I know that the headline is this, the subtitle is this, and the so it's very helpful that way. I don't have to go out of the ecosystem.
Right. And that's
Does
a
that
point
answer?
that, yes, yes. And that was a point we really emphasized during the meetup of how one of Notion's biggest distinguishing factors from any other software out there, in my opinion, is its ability to create an ecosystem within the software that doesn't feel too cumbersome and is able to maintain the flexibility. Because you can make the argument that, well, the Google ecosystem, like it's technically all in Chrome, but it doesn't feel that way when you're continuously switching through tabs and then figuring out what leads to what. But I think what Notion's team has been doing very well since pretty much the beginning is being able to maintain a cohesive flow where it's not like you can't get lost in your Notion because, of course, every user is approaching it differently, but there is a pretty simple chain of logic, either in the breadcrumbs or just the way that the page hierarchies collapse into each other and expand, where it's, in my experience, like easier to find your way out of something versus when you're like lost in a Google Doc, which I have been before and I don't know what to do, frankly. And Notion AI, which is an add-on, and a link to getting it will be in the show description. I think, like you mentioned, this simplifies that even further and helps you, most importantly, not leave the app to do what you want, which is your work, right? So I think that's a
Uh,
very good point.
the point I want to emphasize is more than leaving the app, is the distraction that comes with going out of a single ecosystem. So
Hmm.
modern research says it takes about 19 to 20 minutes for your mind to achieve a pinnacle level of focus. So the
Hmm.
amount of bits, about to reach 110 bits of information for you to grasp every moment, takes 20 minutes to build that focus. And now you are really deeply focused. Mihaly calls it a state of flow. So for you to achieve that sense of deep focus, and suddenly you go in and out, and then what happens is you get distracted. And today's world is very distracting. Not
Yes.
just the algorithm. It's like a mountain of statisticians versus you. There is no
Yeah.
way you're not scrolling to the next video. You are. It's designed for you to make you scroll.
Right.
Their bread butter depends on whether you scroll or not, right? So it is so important in today's modern world that you design an ecosystem where your mind is not distracted. And truly productive, truly meaningful work comes from a sense of focus, comes from a sense of being consciously involved.
Yes, I definitely agree. Let me talk a bit about what this community event was specifically so people who weren't there can understand, and then would love to hear any more thoughts you had from it. So essentially, realize that DC has never really had Notion events or even really Notion ambassadors. I just became a Notion ambassador at the beginning of this year, and immediately I was really excited to get into all the channels that Notion ambassadors are on, and I looked up DC and nothing, almost nothing. And I was very taken aback. I was like, DC is such a type A city. If you ask anybody on the street, like, show me your calendar, it would be like, it would be up to date. And you can't say that for like any place in America. You can't just go up and ask people that and expect that. I think DC is one of those places where you absolutely can. So for such a seemingly structured city, I was very surprised that Notion did not have a bigger presence. But again, there's an opportunity there. So I think you put it in generous terms for the event to seem intimate and small. I just wanted to see like who would show up from my side. I wanted to just have an event. I think in the future we'll definitely do larger and smaller events, but I'm glad you found the intimate vibe welcoming. And I just chose a coffee shop that I thought was pretty easily accessible downtown, a lot of space, and it was a 4 or 5 coffee shop, not sponsored yet by 4 or 5 Coffee. And I just put the link out on my LinkedIn, on Notion channels, and wanted to see who would show up on, as you said, a Saturday afternoon. And I get to the coffee shop and I start getting texts from you. I get texts from other people that are saying like, "We're here. Where are you?" And I'm looking around and I don't see anybody. And I'm like, guys, like I'm just off to the corner. I'm like sending out a blast. This is where I am. And then I realized I put another location of the 4 or 5 coffee shop in the event description, fully confident that it was the one I was already at. And thankfully, I chose literally, I don't think 2 4 5s are like closer together in DC. Like it's less than a 5 minute walk as you experienced, because as you mentioned, I just up and had everybody go to to the one I was at. But that was just, I think, the perfect encapsulation of just like making sure that as I continue to build out what essentially is going to be Notion's DC community, these things will happen, and as long as you don't make too big of mistakes, it's fine. Then when I went to the second 4 or 5 location, I met Manas. We had somebody else with us, and then eventually we had a group of about 6 or 7 people. I was armed with my Notion swag, which were stickers, and essentially I spent some time demonstrating how I use my Notion workflow, as Manas talked about. I also showed people the relatively new Notion calendar and then the very new Notion mail, which was very exciting, I think, for everybody to see a little bit of that. But I think the biggest part for me was just seeing how people use Notion, and that's something that I want to maintain as I plan April's event, which is soon, May's event, etc. Because I think another aspect of Notion that I've really come to appreciate, and I mentioned this at the discussion, was it's so versatile. Like you and me have very different career paths and are in very different stages of life, but we're still able to bond over this. And in addition, the discussion did not stop at our Notion usage. It got into, well, how do you like to organize? Like, what are you using it for? How is Notion integrating into your broader life, both online and off? So that I think was the biggest win for me, besides just having people show up. So thank you again for that. And it makes me excited to be able to retain that feeling going forward, whether the event is big, small, whatever type. I think the point of having Notion events is that the conversation can go beyond that, but everybody is there because of their shared interests. It's kind of hitting both points. So those are my current thoughts. I'm sure they'll continue to evolve, but would you like to add on to how you felt about the event?
It was fantastic. I really liked the point where you said it evolved beyond the software. I
Yeah,
think that was the beauty, the ability to any software is successful if it's solving a problem for you. So I
yeah,
think Notion here solves the problem of wanting to organize your own life, and that involves, your thoughts, your ideas, your Notion.
yeah.
So I think it's a great point, and that's what makes these discussions, these sessions that you host, and you will continue to host, very, very special, because there is not a single agenda that you can expect. People can ask you anything.
Yeah,
People can ask you about their life, about their profession. We also had someone who's already an enterprise client from Notion, and even
yeah,
it worked out for them too. So I think
yeah,
the gamut is wide and the opportunities are many. And
yeah.
I would encourage people to come and experience Sam's sessions, if
Thank
not
you.
for anything, for the coffee.
Yes, and hopefully one day we can also get that covered as well. Just to round out this discussion, I think we're getting at these larger questions of like technology, tech human alignment. I'm curious, based on your experience, how have you seen technology in your life evolve from, I mean, even let's say like 5 years ago? Like, what has been the changes you've seen of how you use technology and how you see it affect the people around you?
Don't go by my face. I set up the Ethernet
Okay,
in those olden days, and
no worries.
I we used to have those pinging things, and you had a phone, so the internet was connected via the phone, and
Uh-huh.
you had to click a dial option. So then the internet option on the Microsoft Windows 95 98 would show up with a P1 P2 processor, Pentium 1 and 2, and
Uh-huh.
maybe Pentium 4, and then it would like ding, 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 it would ring, and then you would keep pressing and pressing and pressing, and boom, suddenly it would connect, and the speed was 8 kbps,
Got it.
16 kbps. So you enter
Wow.
yahoomail.com and just stare at the screen, like hoping, hey, one day it's gonna show up. And
Right.
so I've seen technology since those days, and it's unbelievable where we are today, the ability to talk almost spontaneously. I think human generation, human life has come so far ahead in technology. It's amazing. I think now it's the time that we come forward in the technology of the consciousness also. It is the consciousness that brought out this technology, right? If you think about it, every technological invention has come from a state of mind that is calm. Isaac Newton saw 1,000 apples fall in his life, but the day he sat under a tree peacefully is when he discovered gravity. So all great inventions and discoveries in tech or non-tech come from a space of serendipity, come from a space of inner calmness, inner intuition. Archimedes jumped into the shower a million times, but only when his mind was much more relaxed. It's like that's the principle of buoyancy, right? So I think what I would like, how I've seen technology evolve is it has become a great enabler for success. It has become an amplifier for us to put our message out there, but at the same time, it has caused so many challenges today. Children are unable to focus. Children are, people are distracted, and it has so many, I don't want to say bad impacts, but so many consequences of it. So I think it is so important as we move forward in an era of AI, in the era of software that is so powerful that can think by itself. It's so important that we as human beings use it ethically. We as human beings have those values, principles, morals very, very strong. And for that, we must instill the science of consciousness, the science of mind in people. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my
Yeah.
take on it.
What currently concerns you the most about tech and AI? You mentioned a few there, and what do you feel like you in your capacity can do to like address that? Because naturally, I think there's so many concerns out there that people have with tech and AI, but ultimately, us as individuals, we just hope that every day we can like push forth a little bit on whatever we care about solving or fixing. So, what is that for you?
So I know that the popular notion is what if AI becomes powerful and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
How I'm seeing the major problem come through is people are becoming extremely reliant on it and therefore are not using their own cognitive potential to think.
Hmm.
Now, mind and the brain are just like your muscle. If you don't use it, they get weaker. They
Yeah.
develop atrophy. So I think it is important for the larger audience in the world to understand that AI is a tool. It's an enabler. It shouldn't replace your thinking process. It shouldn't replace your critical thinking. So that is my concern that younger students are using it to solve problems, which is great, but they must also understand the root cause behind how they're solving those problems. So that is a larger concern I feel. And I think at my level, what I can do is if I'm able to inculcate values into people's life, if I'm able to inculcate a sense of pause, okay, can I make this individual just a little bit calm? What happens when the mind calms down? The intellect sharpens. When the intellect is sharp, the memory comes to the present moment. And a person who is in the present moment possibly will not make a wrong choice.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
odds of them taking a better decision comes from a sense of calmness. So
Right.
whether you want to use AI to copy your assignment or whether you want AI to make your assignment the best is really a decision. And the secret to better decision making is a calm mind, not a greedy mind.
Yeah, I like that. And
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
think something we can all use a little more of. One more question for you. How are you going to use Notion next? I hope my Saturday event inspired you a little bit, but tell us a bit more how you want to use your Notion in
No,
this current.
no, no. I think I really enjoyed it. I was looking for that boost where
Hmm.
I see someone else using it and benefiting from it. Sometimes everybody knows what is good, but we don't implement it. But when we see our own people doing it, you feel like, okay, this is doable. This is not as difficult as it appears. And I think that was the beauty of your session, where you say, oh, there are a million features. I remember in your session you're sharing, oh, there are these advanced features, but you don't need to bother about it because
Yeah.
we may never use them. First, get into the habit of using the software, and once you're smooth, you can always iterate on it. I
Yep.
think I think that is my biggest takeaway, which is take action. Iteration can always come. So that is number one, and number two is just do it. As I don't want to say it, but it was a very creative way you've put it. So what I've realized is there is no specific design that's perfect. Each person understands the page, the document visually is very different. So don't aim for perfection in visual understanding, aim for content to be there. And I think that sort of reduces a mental barrier because every time I want to enter data, if I want to enter it beautifully, then I'm focused on the aesthetics versus I'm not focused on the value of it. So I think
Yep.
when I saw yours, it gave me a sense of relatability, a sense of empathy that, yeah, it doesn't have to be like exotic. It can just work. And that's
Yeah.
enough. That's enough for us to use the software.
Yeah, yeah, well said, and hope everyone can take that as well. Manas, thank you so much for having this conversation. I felt like I learned a lot again, I feel like I learned a lot from you already on Saturday, but no, it's great that 48 or so hours later we can talk again. And I really appreciate you being here and being able to talk to the people who listen to me. So thank you again.
Absolutely. It was a great pleasure. Thank you so much for these events and keep me posted.
Of course. That's it for this episode of Mindful Morsels, where we help you do more with less. I want to thank Manas again for his time. Coming up, we have my April Notion template. If you want more information and request features for it, please go to the show description and the relevant links will be there. In terms of the next Notion community event, it will be at the very latest in mid-April. And again, those details can be found in the show description. So if you're in DC and you're either already a Notion user or Notion curious, please pull up for a good time. And in terms of these episodes, I plan to release one every month to unpack the latest template I have out, as well as latest community event in DC, and continue to have some special guests. Because I think one of the best parts about my journey with Notion so far is the learning from others, as Manas put it so beautifully. Please like, subscribe, rate, review on any platform you might be listening to. It really helps drive listenership and engagement and supports me continuing to do something that I hope is at least a little beneficial to others. That's it for this time, and we'll see you next time.